is the flat earth so important? Because it shows the deception. There are enough reasonable questions to create reasonable suspicion that we've been lied to. They can't afford to keep being asked. Whether the earth actually turned out to be diamond-shaped, cross-shaped, pear-shaped, there's enough to see that it's not what we've been told. And once that is revealed, everything these governments have done becomes illegitimate. That is why it matters. And that is why they will do anything they can to keep us fighting, keep us distracted, keep us at odds against each other, just like the entire world. Whether it be Christians against Muslims, blacks against whites, government that truly has your best interest, your freedom at heart, or does it sound like a government that wants to keep you constantly busy on paying attention to anything but what they're doing?
And I ain't seen the sunshine. I don't know where.
All right, so check out this Neil Armstrong interview. He's only given one interview in his entire career, and this is it.
We have with us a group of students among America's best. To you, we say, we have only completed a beginning. We leave you much that is undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
That's very cryptic. One of truth's protective layers. Because that guy was very depressed, went through a divorce, never gave interviews. He had a mysterious finger almost get chopped off that he blamed on something nonsensical. We never went to the moon, guys. Steph Curry was right. He never should have apologized.
Scientists, they show a documentary. This was by Nova. It was on PBS. And didn't really think much about it when I first saw it, until I started putting the pieces together. And then I saw something, a barrier, light up above this sprite. And I thought, what if this is the firmament? And I analyzed this footage. I would slow this footage down. I would change the brightness. And sure enough, I started seeing what I thought I was seeing. The firmament. Put there by our Father in the story of creation. It's been there all along. And it's so sad that we've missed it. And missed out on seeing His glory for our whole lives. There it is. And you're about to see a wave across it. Kind of like the ripple you saw with the rocket. There's that wave. Sprite shooting out of it. And yes, that's a wave. It's not a cloud that you're seeing light up. Again, this is many miles above the clouds. You are seeing the firmament. And this footage was taken down in another video that I put out and blocked in the United States. And for good reason. Because it's waking many people up. They are seeing this solid proof that there's a barrier that these things are shooting out of. These sprites that were mentioned in the book of Enoch. When it talked about stars rising up and becoming lightning and not losing their form, I thought that was crazy. That book was removed from the Bible, and it explained exactly how our system works, the math behind it and everything. But there's the firmament. You can see it. Again, draw your own conclusions. The fact that it's right where those rockets were stopping is no coincidence. Don't take my word for it. Keep looking into it. But I'm going to show you some more proof that the sun, moon, and stars are not light years apart, like we've been told. The nearest star Earth as far away as they say it is, we would be able to observe that in one night while looking at star trails. However, that's not what we see. We do not see the types of parallax that we can prove that we can see. And I know people say, well, it's a different type of parallax because you're only seeing the stars from a spinning Earth. Well, there's experiments you can do with a camera that you spin as if it were Earth with lights placed at various distances. And when you use the scale that the heliocentric model gives us, it's really hard to do on Earth because it's so far away. But this man here from Cody's lab, his name's Cody, he hates us, but I'm going to use his work. And he shows you if that's the moon and the Earth right there, they're really close together, they're really tiny dots. Here's the sun, and no, that's not how close we are to the sun. He's just showing you size-wise. They're a couple feet apart, and he spaces them apart. But the moon and the Earth and the sun at the end of his measuring tape, and he lays them out. He's laying out some of the planets, Jupiter and Pluto, and all of that. There's Pluto. So he's laying these out on a football field, and then he goes to show us where the nearest star would be. And his journey takes him really far. Not just across town, he actually has to leave the state. He drives over 120 miles away, using the scale with those tiny little dots that you saw to show us where the nearest star is. That blew a lot of people's minds and really kind of furthers that fantasy of deep space. However, I saw time lapses of these star trails, and I've seen them moving with the moon. And as I saw them, I noticed they were all moving at the same speed as if they were the same distance away from the Earth. And thought, shouldn't be seeing that. Or should I? I don't really know. Let me do some tests to prove all things. And then I saw the sun and the moon moving through the sky in a time lapse. And they were moving at the same speed and making light trails that were the same size. And I thought, well, if I can set up an experiment that will prove to me that a spinning camera would do this with lights at various distances, maybe I will look back into this heliocentric model that was invented by someone who just looked at the stars in the 1500s. So I set up my camera and some distant lights, and I got this idea from a genius at another channel. His name was Chris Van Matter. And I'd seen an experiment where he had done this on a small scale and produced some shocking results. And so I set up a camera, did my own experiment, and sure enough, the light trails that I was seeing looked very similar until I traced one of the lights that was about half a mile away and drug it down to a light that was probably 25 feet away from my camera, not even close to the scale that Cody was using. It would have been much closer if that was the sun. It would have been a couple feet away, but I was trying to be biased in the globe. And the light trail was a completely different size. And you could imagine the difference you would be seeing if that distant light was 120 miles away. If we could cut through that much atmosphere, you would see a dramatic difference. And our stars, what we're seeing up above us, would look totally different. This is something you can do yourself. Do not believe me. Do not trust me. I could be lying to you. But I hope you're starting to see that we don't need a whole lot of crazy theories to prove the truth. We don't need an Albert Einstein figure who they have put in place to create such theories. Up is up, down is down, straight and level is straight and level. There are many more proofs out there. You just have to look up, see for yourself, look at the stars, look at the sun, make sure you're using eye protection. But figure this stuff out. It's really awesome. The truth and the fact that they have been able to pull one over on us for so long is quite impressive. But go ahead, suck it up, admit that you were fooled, no big deal, swallow your pride, and do some investigation. The truth really does sound crazy, but But once you find out the truth, the lies that you believe sound a whole lot crazier. I encourage you guys to share this before it's deleted again. Download it, mirror it, upload it, whatever you want to do. It's free for anyone that wants to use it. I love you guys. The Father loves you way more than I do, and sacrificed a lot more for you than I ever will. I pray and ask that you get to know Him and understand who you really are, and that it's okay to lose the things of this world to gain something that you cannot lose, that you do not deserve. And I ask that it sets you free for the Father's glory. Yahuwah Elohim, the one true Father, who made of this earth, who made the heavens. He loves you. And I thank Him for sending me here to tell you this, so that you understand exactly who you are and who He is. May His love and peace be with you forever.
What you're looking at is part of, I haven't really rehearsed this, so I'm just going to go, is part of the greatest science fiction story ever told, which goes back hundreds of years, but only became relevant in about 1950, which is, what if science, mainstream science, figured out, this is your flat earth, you wanted me to talk about flat earth, here's flat earth. What if mainstream science figured out that the world was not a globe anymore? What would you be willing to do to protect what we've been teaching for 20-25 generations since Copernicus, that the world was a globe? What would you be willing to do? Money is not an object. This is what you come up with. Eventually, sooner or later, you're going to have to, because remember, up until NASA was formed, there was no picture taken of the Earth from space, ever. So how do you show people a picture of the Earth from space? It's not like I can just take a picture and hand it to you and say, hey, here's the picture of the Earth from space. You have to at least simulate the technology before people figure it out on their own. So you create a rocket program to take the picture, to even fake the picture, because the picture was never taken, it was just painted in. You have to create a rocket program to at least simulate, give you at least people the idea that they can go up high enough to take that picture. And then you have to protect it at all costs. And then you have to discontinue it and make it seem like it was never that big a deal. And hold on to it for as long as you can. And that's exactly what they did. In 1958, NASA was formed. And by the mid-1960s, and we'll go over the other side of that wall, Apollo 8 supposedly, circled the Earth. And then others went to the moon and circled back. And then eventually we landed people on the moon. And then eventually it got boring. And they say, well, the ratings weren't good enough, and people were complaining that we were watching moon footage. They weren't complaining that they were watching moon footage. The quality of the production of the moon footage was so terrible that people didn't want to watch it. Absolutely. They had to discontinue it before the technology, way before the internet was created, way before HD technology was created. You make it seem like it's just not that big a deal. In 1972, they closed the whole thing down, at the end of 1972. But on the way back, remember, Apollo 8 through Apollo 16 never took a picture of the Earth. They waited till the last possible minute, so that way you couldn't compare pictures. It was perfect.
I tell you that the first mission is scheduled to land on Mars on July the 4th, 1997, Independence Day.
We will undertake extended human missions to the moon as early as 2015, with the goal of living and working there for increasingly extended periods of time. Human missions to Mars and to worlds beyond.
But I just have to say, pretty bluntly here, we've been there before. There's a lot more of space to explore and a lot more to learn when we do. Last month we launched a new spacecraft as part of a re-energized space program that will send American astronauts to Mars.
We will establish a foundation for an eventual mission to Mars, and perhaps someday to many worlds beyond. We dare to dream big, and that's what our country is doing again. We're dreaming big.
In the heavens, it was a tear in the firmament, and what we see is the Milky Way. When we look up and see the line of stars in the sky is actually angels holding it together after being repaired. You look at this Milky Way, the if that's the universe and it's like billions of light years away, and all, that doesn't make any sense at all. That looks like a scar in the sky. It also explains the glass scattered all over the Middle East. Gigantic chunks of it through the desert. Yeah, I wonder if that's where all the sand came from. I'm not kidding. And people will be like, oh, you're so crazy. Where'd all the sand come from? You know? Like, we don't actually know what happened. The Bible is the closest record.